Welcome to Motoring Investments. Today we're going to talk about some of the differences between the various Pagoda or W113 models. The earliest Pagoda was a 230 SL. It went through the 250 SL and then finally the 280 SL. And it's rather important to talk about because a lot of enthusiasts only think about a 280 SL. They think a Pagoda is a 280 SL. And the number just means engine size. The earlier cars had a slightly smaller engine, same architecture though, with a single overhead cam and fuel injection. The 230 had a 2.3 liter engine or 2300 cc's. This 250 has a 2.5 liter engine and the 280 has a 2.8 liter. And very minor differences in horsepower. And then, of course, the earlier cars were a little lighter, so there's really no difference in acceleration or seat-of-the-pants feel. So the more people know about the whole range of cars, helps open up possibilities for enthusiasts. So some of the differences, besides the color, this is horizon blue and this is medium blue, 903 blue, are the lack of overriders on the 250 SL. The bumpers are more clean, and just like the European cars, they tended to be clean bumpers like this. Essentially all the US 280 SLs had bumper overriders. Another difference are the two-piece wheel covers on the 250 SLs. You see the trim ring around the outside and the center hubcap. The 280s have a single piece wheel cover. You're right, this is not a wheel cover. This car has the optional alloy wheels, nicknamed bunt wheels because they resemble a bunt cake. And they were available on the late series 280s only. So this car has the optional wheels. And then when we pan to the front, you'll see those overriders, which is a US 280 SL feature. They were optional on all the cars, to my knowledge, but the European cars tended not to have them. People just didn't opt for them. They maybe thought the look was a little too much, but Mercedes-Benz of North America essentially ordered all the 280s with bumper overriders. So that pretty much completes the front of the cars. They're very similar. These are US style headlights. If you want to see what European lights look like, check one of our other videos. We feature cars with the European lights. But let's look under the hoods now and see what we've got. So now we're inside this 250 SL engine bay, and you see an engine that looks just like a 280 SL engine. The only difference is a slightly smaller bore in the block. And there are a few other tangential differences, just details really. But talking about this car in particular, it has a high level of originality under the hood. From the original brake fluid reservoir, we know it's original because it's kind of an amber color and it's oriented correctly thus. Some of the replacements that are available are on an angle and they're typically bright white. So it's kind of refreshing to have a car that's so original under the hood. The firewall pad has been renewed when we serviced this car, but it is the correct finish, the pattern. Another feature of the early cars, the 230s and the 250s, is the subframe mount cover. The 280s did not have them. So if you see one on a 280, maybe the owner just liked the way they looked or the restoration shop didn't know any better. It happens. Again, this car is over 50 years old, and this engine bay has not been pressure washed or cleaned up in any way. It has just been driven what I like to call politely and easily for 100,000 miles only. It's not 200, it's not 300. Everything indicates this is just 100,000 miles. And it's just a nice, presentable engine bay, the way we like to find them. Originality features, notice the little dots along the fender where it wraps down into the engine bay. Those are the factory spot welds. And that is the marker that tells us these fenders are original, factory original. So I think that wraps up this engine bay on this car. Let's move over to the 280 now and have a look. Now we're under the hood of this 280 SL. And you'll notice it looks very similar to the 250 we just looked at, although this car has gone through a cosmetic freshening of the engine bay when it came out of a long-term storage. So along with having this engine rebuilt, they cosmetically corrected or renewed the finishes and the coatings. The firewall pad is all original on this car, a proving point to its care. You'll notice the pattern is similar, though, to the new one that's on the R250 you just saw. Again, an original brake fluid reservoir. This one looks a little bit lighter color. The car is a little newer. That's why, but it's the correct one. You'll notice a lack of a cover over the subframe mount. That's how a 280 should be. You notice the gold cad finishes. They tend to fade over the years. That's what happened on R250 and any car over 50 years. If you like the look and want to freshen them, that can all be done. Some people think a driver is a driver, and they're not showing off the underhood components anyway. So behind the seat, you don't see any of these things. Again, spot welds along the front fenders. That's how we know they're original. And just a very nice engine bay. This car is a manual transmission car. The 250 you just looked at is an automatic. So here's the dead giveaway. This is the fluid reservoir for the hydraulic clutch on a car that has a stick shift. I think we'll take a look at the interiors now. Okay, so we are inside the interior of this 250 SL, and we're going to showcase some of the differences between a totally original interior 250 SL, and then we'll bounce over to our 280 and show some differences. So one thing right off the bat that you notice is that the 250s all came with an iPhone and it interfaces with the radio. Okay, just kidding, they didn't come with that, but the last owner of this car installed this interface system, and it has this fancy Bluetooth Becker Europa radio. And the beauty of this is it looks vintage, just the way it should look, but it's Bluetooth, hooks up with your smartphone, and pulls in all the stations. You can run everything from it. It's all electronic. It's a wonderful upgrade. Another difference while we're right here, this car has air conditioning. The 280s had a Frigiking unit. That's the brand of the evaporator unit. The earlier cars have a Coolmeister, and I love that word, Coolmeister. Very marketing. And Coolmeister air conditioning. This car, again, is all original upholstery. And the 250s have a different type of upholstery than the 280s. It has this specific basket weave pattern on the insert part. And these seats are all original, a testament to this car's easy use for over 50 years and just 100,000 miles. An optional feature is this sideways sitting seat called the transverse seat. Some people call it a Kinder seat. Kinder for child in German, but I think Mercedes just called it a transverse seat. And that was optional, they weren't standard. And I believe the 280s did not have that option because there was a seat belt issue. The 280s came out and we were required to have seat belts in the US, so the Kinder seat option went away on the 280s. While we're in this interior, we're going to talk a little bit about carpet. The 250s and the 230s have a German square weave carpeting, and you notice it's very square. And they were all that way, except down in the footwell. The 250s and 230s have rubber mats. If you encounter a 250 or a 230 with carpet, it means possibly it's had the interior redone, or maybe its owner just liked the carpet. It's an upgrade that some people like. We tend to like to keep them as original or correct as possible. Seat belts. So this car has seat belts, and they're lap belts, aircraft style, lift the buckle. And they have these cool little ports to park the outboard side when it's not in use. The 280s have a 3-point seat belt, and the brand name is Kangol. They are Kangol brands. Now with seat belts, Concord judges will look the other way if you put modern belts in, typically, because it's a safety item. You're pretty safe with these, with the number of miles we drive a year in our classic cars, but if one wanted a 3-point belt, they can certainly be put in. You can put in a Kangol belt from a 280. You can even put a belt from a 560 in with fully retractable, if you like. We have color-coordinated dash, nice wood features, visors, which always match the headlining color, not the upholstery. They never match the upholstery from the factory, unless you happen to have upholstery that was maybe parchment and just a coincidence it matched. And these are original visors. These are not repros. They have not been replaced. Another testament to how this car was cared for and used over the last 50 years. And they're foam inside, so they're not really robust over a lot of years or with heavy or hard use. So really a treasure to find a 250 with totally original visors, because you cannot buy these new. You can get a 280 visor repro, and so a lot of 250s or 230s you'll find will have 280 visors, but this one is all authentic. So now we're looking at a 280 SL interior. It's a mostly original interior, another testament to this car's easy use and low mileage. The big elephant in the room are the headrests. The 280s produced from 69, the second year of the 280, through 71 have headrests. And this was a US mandated feature, by our government. The Euro cars did not have headrests. They can be retrofitted onto a 250 or a 230. Many of us feel that because we don't drive our classic cars every day, rear-end collisions are rather rare. I kind of take the risk on my early cars. I don't update them to headrests. Some people do. It's a personal preference. Another difference on the 280s is the type of carpet. The 280 has a multi-loop, which is nylon based, and you see that here. You also see cocoa mats, which are just an option. It's just to keep the wear level down on the original carpet, and this is the carpet. This is our multi-loop in the footwell. You remember the 250 and the 230 only have rubber mats there. Upholstery. This car has received new upholstery because during its storage, there were some issues with the original upholstery, even though the restorer was able to preserve the whole interior, but they chose to replace the seat covers. And the seat covers are a little different on the 280s than the 230s and the 250s. You'll notice it's not a basket weave. It's sort of a faux leather pattern with little perforations, and this is not leather. A lot of people look at any of these cars and just call it leather, but leather was an extra cost option. Each of these cars have what we call MB Tex. It's a very high quality vinyl. It wears like iron, and so this is a great example of 280 SL MB Tex. And the door panels, I'll get out so you can have a look, are absolutely original on this car, and you'll notice they match the seats very nicely. Seat belts. The 280s have a 3-piece seat belt, and Kangol is the brand. I don't think they say Kangol on them. Oh, they do, actually. Here's our Kangol brand. And again, these can be installed on a 250. Again, visors which are color coordinated to the headliner of the hardtop. There were originally 3 different colors of visors, all pastel. And these, I believe, are the gray ones. It's like a light eggshell gray. Our 250 has, well, it has 250 version visors, which are a little different and hence a little bit different color. But there was a bamboo and there was a cream color. And I think there's only one of the colors available from the factory today, if the factory still has them. There's a good reproduction available now. So that's happy news for restorers and collectors. So we've covered multi-loop carpeting, carpet in the footwells, the difference on the seat upholstery. The other point is that the late 250s are very similar to 280s. The early 250s are more similar to 230s, but we have highlighted the differences that a late 250 has compared to any of the 280s. And now I think it's time to maybe look at the back of the cars and inside the trunks. We're at the back of this lovely 1968 250 SL, and you'll notice again, there are no bumper overriders, just like on the front of the car. That's a feature of the earlier cars. The US 280 SLs had bumper overriders. All the pagodas had a locking gas cap. A big difference back here on the early cars is that the tail lights are all red, except for the portion at the very bottom, which is the clear reverse light lens. The turn signal, which is the far outboard part of the light lens on the 280s, on the late 280s, I should say, is amber. On the early cars, they're all red. And for a long time, these lights were made out of a material called unobtainium. But I believe there are ways to rebuild one now if you need to do an early car to have it authentic. You will see a lot of early cars running around with 280 SL tail lights because that's the easy button. They just buy them and wire them and plug and play. But to be more authentic and correct, the early cars should have an all red tail light. And that's from early 69 280 SLs and back. So all the 250s and all the 280s have those red lights. You'll notice the 250 badge is proclaimed proudly on the left side of the car. This is an automatic car, and if it was a Euro car, it would also have automatique here. That's a dead giveaway on a Euro car, but this is a US car. Under the trunk, you see the rubber mat, and that's a nice feature. You know, they were never carpeted, and it cleans easily. You know, it is a utilitarian part of the car. You put in luggage and whatever. But that rubber mat also can hold moisture against the floor. So knowledgeable enthusiasts and buyers will always lift up this rubber mat in this area because this is the part that is the most susceptible to corrosion. And this car may have had a wee bit of surface corrosion, but nothing that couldn't be cleaned away and sealed. You'll see some cars with gaping holes in this area. The right side of the trunk has the muffler passing under it, so that drives the moisture away. So it's essentially the left side. If they're going to have rust, that's the side. And again, they just had rubber mats. These are available brand new. So if you're doing a car up and the rubber mat is disheveled, you can get one. And the other aspect for correctness is under the trunks, they're all black. They're satin black. Under the hood, they're body color. Under the trunks, they're black, as this one is. And they have a nice spare tire cover to finish off the trunk. We're going to look in the 280 trunk in just a minute and look at the back of that 280 and see what kind of differences we might have. Now we're at the back of this late series 280 SL, and you'll notice the 280 SL badge. And incidentally, the deck lids are aluminum, which is a nice feature. The door skins, deck lids or trunk lids, and the hood are all aluminum to save weight. The 280s, again, all the US 280s have bumper overriders or bumper guards, although they were optional on other models and in Europe. But the big feature on the late 280s are the tail lights, and the outboard part is amber. That's your turn signal, and that was a mandated change in late '69 for the 1970 model year. So this is a late series car, and it has the amber tail light lenses. Now we're going to go inside the trunk and see if we can see any differences here. And you know, I don't think there are any differences here. Again, we like to focus on this aspect of the trunk floor, because if they're going to rust, this is one of the first places to go. And since this car went through a preservation and had been stored for decades, it has a nice, supple, new trunk mat. The one in the 250 is original to the car, a testament to how that car was used. Again, spare tire cover, all black in the trunk. If you find a Pagoda with body color in the trunk, it's maybe because the owner of the car liked that look, or maybe the restoration shop really didn't have all the knowledge of how these cars were back in the day. And I think that wraps up our comparison of the 250 and the 280 with these two lovely examples. I thank you for sharing and watching along with us.